I'm your host, Casman Trout, and welcome to the premiere episode of the Director's Chair. Here we have, in the Director's Chair, Norman McGuire, who will be talking about writing horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course.
I feel like I'm on Oprah.
You are on Oprah.
You're not black, or a woman, or rich.
That's all you know. All right. So, what kind of early memories of watching horror movies you get?
The early memories of horror movies. I remember when I was like 9 years old, I think I was, and I watched a movie called 13 Ghosts. You know, for those who've seen it, you know, it's about a movie where 13 ghosts are stuck in a basement and this family gets terrorized by them. And remember, I'm 9 years old, so all this stuff is real to me. So let's say I had a lot of nightmares after that, and it's a creepy film because when you're on the main menu of the DVD, if you don't press anything for a while, it plays by itself. So when you're by yourself and you're watching that movie, you freak yourself out. And I wasn't a big fan of horror movies after that, so it took me a while to finally being able to watch them again.
Okay. What's your strongest genre when it comes to writing?
My strongest genre, I think, would be in the horror. For some reason, I can never say it right. Horror.
Mm.
And I would say drama, even though there's a lot of drama into the horror film as well. And I guess comedy too, but I'm more so stronger in the drama horror field because there's a lot more intensity you can do with that than, you know, say comedy or whatever else.
What's wrong with horror movies today?
Horror movies today are just getting very ridiculous and very repetitive. I know you might not know what I'm talking about because you don't watch horror movies. But they are getting repetitive, some of them, especially the franchises that there are, like the Saw series and those that's not around still, that got repetitive after, you know, the first few. I mean, when you have 7 films of one franchise, and it's the same thing over and over and over again, just with like different characters and maybe different traps, you know, what else is there? There's nothing else.
That kind of brings me to the next question here, is, you know, how easy or hard is it to lose originality in horror franchises?
It's very easy. I wouldn't say it's too hard, but it's pretty easy. Like I said, when you have the same concept, film after film after film, yeah, the core fans are going to like it still. It's just, you know, if you're trying to appease the fans that aren't fans of the actual film franchise and they keep seeing it's the same sick movie over and over and over and over again, they're not going to care. And it's not just Saw series, I don't want to just pick on them, but it's very easy, and I don't think people really realize how easy it is. I think they just get brainwashed because they're big fans of the films that they'll watch it anyways, no matter if it's good or bad or original or not.
Right.
And before we go on, for those watching who may not think, what gives me the right to talk about this and diss movies and write my own movies? I am a writer. I have written several scripts. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. I've seen plenty of movies to know, again, what doesn't work and what does work. So, for those who don't know, or
for those judging,
don't think I have the right to say any of this, I kind of do.
I've read the script. It's wonderful.
I mean, I've written horror scripts, like actual horror scripts, for scary movies and drama films and all that stuff. So I have a good reason to be here and talk about this.
What's the name of your horror movie?
For today?
Yes.
It is called Come Out and Play.
It's called what?
Come Out and Play.
And what's it about?
It's about this killer, who is actually a killer. He dons a clown mask and he starts stalking these teenage kids, because when you have a horror film, or at least when you have a slasher film, the ideal victims and characters are teenagers, high schoolers, even though how sick that sounds. That's why teenagers relate to horror movies, because sometimes they think they are in a horror movie. So it's the perfect little, you know, bundle right there, and he's a psychopathic clown killer, I guess you can say. But he's not really a clown, he just has a mask. And he just stalks everybody and actually targets the main character, Carly, and her little sister, Ellie, who's 10 years old. And for some reason, he's targeting them, but she has a boyfriend who's also protecting, because obviously if you have a boyfriend in the movie...
You're done.
Well, not only that, you could get killed, but at the same time, the boyfriend, no matter if he's big, strong, small, any shape or size, he's going to have to be the grand protector. Because who else is going to be there? Because the dad's not. I mean, everyone obviously knows the dad's going to try to protect his daughter, but in horror movies, the parents don't really know what's going on until like the end of the movie. And then when they finally figure it out, they're done. They get killed. Like, it's the only way. That's the only way to get emotion out of people in watching the movie is the parents are getting killed. Because, oh my god, the parents got killed. So, obviously, the boyfriend has to be the grand protector against the killer. And, of course, the grand protector can't get killed. That's a rule.
What do you need to have strong characters?
What do you need to have strong characters? You have to make them real. Like, realistic. Like, you need to have characters that, relate to yourself. Like, let's say we have a stoner character and you have a stoner watching the movie. There's going to be instant relation there because they're so similar. And if that person gets killed, then the stoner watching is going to get emotional. For more ways than one, but... you know what I mean? And when you have like if you have like a sweet innocent girl as your main character and you have a sweet innocent girl watching, they're going to relate. Or even having, backstories that relate to your audience. Like, with a girl who's being neglected and there's a girl watching that's been neglected, there's going to be that instant connection there. So when or if the characters die, then there's going to be some kind of emotion and attachment to it. And that's what you need. I mean, if you're going to have characters that are going to die off and you have no character development and the audience doesn't care, then what's the point of killing them or even having them in the first place?
Okay, speaking of your audience here, how do you keep your audience on edge and keep them guessing throughout the whole film?
Well, to keep them on edge, you need to surprise them. Because if they're going to sit there and say, oh, I know what's coming up, he's going to jump from behind, you need to make sure you're a couple steps ahead of your audience. Because your audience is not dumb, first of all. Like, they know what to expect in a movie, but you need to make sure you kind of go against that. Like, you need to, if they think a killer's going to come out from, like, a doorway, you need them to come out through a window. You have to, like, fool your audience. And you have to be original. I know it goes back to our original question where it says originality. Like, if you have a killer that comes and slices someone's throat or shoots them or do whatever, we've seen it before, what's new? So you need to somehow, and I could probably do it, you need to have a special way to kill him. And with a clown killer, you need to relate to a clown. I mean, duh. So, what's the one thing you think of, clowns? When you think of clowns?
Creepy nose.
Well, as in, like, as general, like...
Small clown car. They're creepy.
Like, what other things do you think they'll have?
Demons.
As in, like, stuff to entertain kids. What do you think they would have in their arsenal?
Stuffed animals.
Stuffed animals? What else?
Hula hoops.
Hula hoops?
Not really a big fan of clowns, so I really don't know.
Like, I would say balloon string, but it could be strong enough. I don't know. I've never choked anybody with it. But because it's a pretty, if you've not seen balloon string, it's pretty...
Durable.
Yeah, it's kind of, like, if you wrap it around your finger enough times, you're going to lose circulation. So imagine that around someone's throat. Obviously, you either have to subdue them first, wrap the thing around and then choke them. But also, if you're going to be original, you might want to bring something unoriginal. Just have them, like, have a knife or, like, a butcher knife or something, just in case. Because you want it to be believable. Even though there's probably wouldn't be a clown killer on the loose, choking people with balloon string. So you kind of have to have a regular weapon. So let's choke the person out, maybe before they die, and then torture them with a knife. And that's what I do. And to keep them guessing, the audience, you need to have, again, with the characters, you need to have a bunch of characters that are either regular people or creepy. And they all have to mean something. If they don't mean shit, then they shouldn't really be in the movie in the first place. But you need to have all the characters to have a connection to your main characters, which is Carly and her boyfriend and maybe her little sister. So best friends and cousins or whatever. And then people throughout the film are going to start guessing, okay, I think it's that guy. I think it's her. You know, so, you know, when you watch movies, I don't know, you don't watch horror movies, but you must watch some kind of thriller movie. Mystery movies. Okay, fine, let's use Criminal Minds for an instant. Back when they first started, when they were looking for the killer, there's some people you would guess who was the killer. But then, all of a sudden, someone else you didn't expect. But in this entire time, or even Bones for that matter, better example, because they have more suspects in that show. And you have all these characters, and you keep saying, I think it's that guy. Maybe it's her. But then it's, you know, maybe it's someone you did expect or you didn't. And that's the same thing for horror movies. Because they all mean something to the story. They all relate to the story. And you just either choose someone you don't expect or choose someone you did expect. And usually, when you have a creepy person and a normal people in the movie, it's never the creepy people.
Yeah.
It's never the creepy person. Usually the creepy person in a horror movie, or the person that you're kind of iffy on, is always the one that helps at the end. Kill the killer. Because it makes the most sense. Right. Because there's so much tension between the two main characters and the creepy person that when they come together, it's a feel-good moment, you know? You want to feel nice and warm-hearted. I know.
Would you turn this into a franchise?
I'd turn this into a franchise? It would depend, actually. It wouldn't depend on necessarily the movie itself. When you think of franchises, the reason why the franchises have gone on so much is because of the money they bring in. And you have to obviously make a profit. But, like, let's pretend this movie has what's a usual normal budget, do you know? Let's say it's
usually you can get away with like a $200,000 budget as like a cheap horror.
Let's go with 400,000 just to bring it a little bit. Say we had a $400,000 budget, or $400,000 budget. That's a lot of words to say in one little statement here. Pretend we have that budget. If the movie makes $250,000, it's a flop. What's the point of making another one if no one paid to see the first one? You know, we didn't make a profit, so what's the point of making a second one and, you know, maybe lose even more money? But if it exceeded that, let's say it's either double, triple, or quadrupled it, and let's say it's gone to like, you know, $20 million it did at the box office or something. Now, obviously, you're going to try to make a sequel, and if the sequel does good in the box office, you're going to keep going until you see a dip or you don't feel creative enough to make another one. And another thing is the story. Because, in my opinion, if you're going to have a sequel or any other sequels after them, it has to be better than the one previous. So if you're going to do a second come out and play, the story has to be better than the first. If you're going to do a third one, the third one has to be better than the second, but way better than the first. And you're going to confuse yourself after a while, but especially if you do like 11 movies like the Freddy or Jason franchise. They did like 12 of them. So you would probably get confused on that, but it all depends on the box office and the story, and if whether your fans are dedicated to see another one and demand another one.
What would you change about horror movies today?
Just everything. Like, it's hard for you to understand because you don't watch horror movies, but there's so many horror movies that are so much alike now that it's hard to depict them. Like the Paranormal Activity series, there's been so much of that. I mean, they just come out with a fourth one, and they're going to be coming out with a fifth one next year. And again, it gets to a point where, you know, how much of this can you do? And that's one thing I was stuck is what stopped with the ridiculous franchises. Like, I remember back in the day, I'm not even 20 and I'm talking like I'm 40. Back in, I don't even know how to word this, but there's times where, you know, horror movies either had a first and sequel, and maybe a third one for a trilogy. That was it. You know, it was rare to see a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 19th film. So that's what I would stop. If you're going to go on with movie franchises, do a trilogy.
Mm.
Because, I mean, not even with horror movies. Like, if you continue with several other movies repeatingly, you're going to bore your audience. And there's so many different ones I can mention right now, but they're all the same. But with back to the Paranormal Activity series, there's so many movies that have taken that idea, the found footage idea that the Paranormal Activity used, that's the genre of found footage, that so many different movies have been doing that. And back in the day, have you ever seen, you must have never seen the Blair Witch Project, but have you heard of it?
I know what it is, yeah.
That's what started really the most popular one before Paranormal Activity. And there was a time where people kept asking, is this real? Is this real? This has to be real. This is found footage. It says right on the screen, it says this tape was found at the scene of the crime, whatever. So people thought it was real. And now, when all these other movies are found footage, there's not that doubts in your mind saying, this has to be real, because it's not. There's like 15 other movies the same exact way. Mm-hmm. So Paranormal Activity, you know, obviously is fake. I mean, just Google it, folks. It's kind of hard to even have that footage. Like, if you realize where they get the footage, they should find the people that die in the movie. Common sense. And just the slasher films, too, are repetitive. You know, how many people are going to get killed with a knife? You know, that's why I brought out balloon string. I mean, that's something that's probably never been done. You know, when you want to stick, well, in the genre of horror, it's hard to stick out. Mm-hmm. No pun intended with a knife, but you want to stick out in the horror field. That's what Paranormal Activity did. That's what Final Destination series have done. Saw has done. They all have different approaches to the horror genre. But the ones that have slasher films are just the same killer, you know, just different movies. Like, you can have a killer that has an axe, chops people's heads off, or you can have another one that has a machete. It's the same thing, just different characters. And then what's the point of watching it? Because I've seen it before. I'm not going to get scared. You know, I'm not scared of horror movies anymore. You know, people ask me, what's a good horror movie to watch? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not scared of horror movies. Like, well, me, I'm kind of different. I'm different in many ways. But when I watch a movie, not just a horror movie, I look at it as a movie. I don't pretend it's real. I don't do any of that. I look at it as a movie. So my opinion doesn't matter. Like, if you come up to me right now and ask, I don't know, give me any horror movie at the top of your head. Just
Scream.
If you came up to me and says, is Scream a scary movie? I don't know. You have to watch it yourself. And you don't watch horror movies. So how am I going to be able to convince you to watch it and say it's scary? I can't tell you if it's scary or not, because it doesn't scare me. It's actually pretty humorous, so it's kind of a bad example, but, you know, and I think that's not only me. A lot of people are like that, especially nowadays, because horror movies are very popular. You want to know, but you can tell, because that's a lot of the movies coming out, and there's far and few between them that are good and bad. And it sucks, and I would just totally, if I had the ability to change any of the movies, it would be change it up. I mean, just do something different. I mean, I get it that people are comfortable, you know, doing the same thing over and over again, because it's comfortable. You're comfortable when you're doing that. And as a writer, if you're writing a thing, you feel comfortable with doing the same thing, but you can't think of yourself. You have to think of the audience. Because you're not the one paying to see this movie. It's your audience. It's the people in the world that's paying to watch this. And if you don't give them a reason to, you know, spend $15 on a movie ticket to go see your movie, then it just kills the whole purpose of any other movies following it or the movie itself that they're going to see. So you have to think of, the last person you need to think of is yourself, obviously. And that's what people aren't doing. They want to see the movies they want to see, not the movies the audience wants to see.
Well, I guess that's everything for today. And this has been the premiere episode of A Director's Chair. I'm your host, Casman Drowned, and
You're actually a host.
This here is Norman McGuire.
Did you give me an incentive for being the host this time? It's the first time you've ever been the host.
It's true. It's the first time.
It's different being the guest, because I'm always the one introducing.
It's true.
I guess I'll take reins right now. Just 1 second, I'll give it back to you. Give me the reins. Okay. Our next director's chair, hopefully, Kayla Marie Albert, yes, will be sitting in the director's chair, and she will be rewriting her favorite franchise of all time, the Twilight Saga. Because as you've seen in What's That Movie, she has not nice things to say about the way the Twilight series has come about from the book series, and her love for Kristen Stewart. So she's going to be rewriting the movie is how the way she sees it that could complement the book series. So don't want to miss that.
Thank you for those reins back.
No problem.
So see you next
I
time.
hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed me. Did you? Did I smarten you up in any way?
He keeps interrupting me.
Did I?
can't.
I'm asking you a question now. Did I smarten you up?
Not really. I mean, well, about your film and the movies, I guess, yes.
Writing lines?
I don't really know
I'm a
anything
writer.
about horror, so... Yes, but Norman McGuire is a phenomenal writer.
Did I make any sense to you?
I guess so.
Did I make any good points?
Oh, yes.
Okay, that's all I want. That's why I did it. And maybe the movie I wrote, maybe it will be a future production. Who knows?
See you next time on The Director's Chair.